Hi chess players, welcome to the video. Today we are going to discuss a special pawn capture that's called en passant. Let's check it out. En passant is a very special, unique capture in chess because it is the only capture in chess in which the piece that is doing the capturing does not land on the square of the piece that it is capturing. It lands on a different square. All other captures in chess, when a piece is moved and it captures, it lands directly on the square of the piece it's capturing and replaces that piece. So en passant is a very special pawn capture, and it's important to note that this rule, en passant, was added about 500 years ago, and we think chess is around 1,500 years old, so it's a relatively newer rule, and a few other rules came about at this time as well, and that is that a pawn can move 2 squares on its first move, and they added the queen's movement, being able to move as far as she wanted. Prior to that, a queen could only move 1 square. So when they added these new moves around 500 years ago, they added the move that a pawn could move 2 squares on its first move. And if white moves 2 squares on its first move with the h-pawn, white's idea is pretty clear. They want to continue advancing their pawn to the end of the board and promote that pawn to a queen and go on to win the game. The en passant capture gives a player that has a pawn, in this case the black pawn is on the 4th rank, and if this pawn moves up 2, or kind of double jumps and lands directly next to the black pawn, this player has the option of capturing this pawn en passant on their very next move, and it would look like this. The pawn would move diagonally like it would normally capture, and it would take the h-pawn. So a few things about en passant. To be able to capture en passant, first of all, the pawn that you're capturing must move forward 2 squares. Not just 1, it must move forward 2 squares. Secondly, once it moves forward, it must be directly next to the pawn that is capturing. Only then can the pawn capture en passant and take the white pawn. And lastly, to make this en passant capture, it needs to be made on the very next move, in this case for the black pieces. What I mean is, black can't make another move. Let's just say they move their king randomly, and we'll make a random move for white. Well, black does not have the option of capturing en passant now, because you must do it on the very next move, the very next move that is played. So if white plays pawn from h2 to h4, black has the option of capturing en passant. And en passant is a French term that means in passing. Put simply, the white pawn, is trying to run past the black pawn, and this gives the player with the dark pieces the option of capturing that if they would like on the very next move. Let's take a look at a different example. In this position, if black pushes the g-pawn 2 squares, pawn to g5, white has the option of capturing the black pawn en passant, because that pawn moved forward 2 squares and landed directly next to a white pawn. So which of the white pawns can capture the black pawn en passant? Feel free to pause your video and try to decide which pawn can capture the black g5 pawn. And if you said that either pawn could capture en passant, you are correct. In this case, when black plays g7 to g5, either the white pawn on h5 can capture en passant, or the f pawn also has the option of capturing g5 en passant. And remember, you must capture en passant on the very next move that is played. When black plays g5, if you want to capture en passant with one of the white pawns, you must do so on the very next move, or you lose the right to capture en passant. I hope you found today's video helpful on the pawn capture en passant. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.